Hello again and welcome to another version. So right now I'm explaining the front end of what we have seen back then, the credit card default prediction machine, and right now what we're seeing is the front end where what mm, usually the customers interact with. So right now, once again, we're importing the dependencies here. Then NumPy and Pandas to perform operations, and then SQL Alchemy because what we're dealing here with is the databases. Dealing here with SQLite as a database. So we're here importing the SQL Alchemy here. As you can see, from SQL Alchemy import column, foreign key, and integer string. So right, all these are basically functions of the SQL Alchemy which we are importing because we need to perform operations on the databases. And we're importing Flask because that's going to be the microweb framework with which we'll be designing our front end. And the pickle once again because we need to load save file which we saved earlier. The random forest, actually we've saved the model earlier, and right now what we're doing here is retrieving the saved model here. uh, these are basically the modules here. And here we're importing the module, the model which we saved. So you can see the loaded model equals the pickle.load open, and the model that we have saved, the random forest model that we previously saved, is being loaded here. And then we're creating an app because to run the model we need some kind of the placeholder, the container. So we're using the app as a Flask container to we're initiating the Flask container to launch our application. And here we are connecting to the existing database. We actually have a database, the credit card default SQLite, which is basically which is going to be a database, and we are actually seeing if the database is there. If the database doesn't exist, we're actually creating a database here. So we're gonna create this default credit card defaults.sqlite. We're gonna create this database if it doesn't exist. If it does exist, then we're simply connecting to it, and then we're trying to see if there is a table which we need to uh, insert the data into. So we're trying to reflect it, so we are basically printing it back to see if there is any you know table in there. If there is no table, uh, then you know we connect to it. If, if there's a table, then with the same name we drop it and we start from scratch. And then if we connect to the SQLite engine using this, so you see we're dropping that the existing table and we're creating a new table and we're starting it from scratch. And here we're rendering the template which you set previously. So what we're doing here, we're using the Flask Flask, what we call it, framework, the framework of Flask, to initiate a web page because that's how the clients are going to interact with our page. So as you can see here, the app route, so this is going to be the default start position, and from here we're setting the home page and we are rendering the template index.html. This is something we created previously, and then we're setting the values prediction and probability to 0 because when we set to home, this is the initial start of the page. And right here we're for writing the function predict. So when we're trying to predict, uh, you know we're dropping all the classes, we're dropping all the tables in there, and then you know getting the table we're creating the table name here, the class creates default, and then we're putting the table arguments. We're putting the table arguments because we perform functions on it, and then we're giving it the base values. As you can see, the default equals to column of integer. So we're actually giving it some values. We're creating a class and passing values to it. And Right here we're actually getting the input from the HTML. This is what the user fills and passes to the backend when he clicks the submit. So we're getting the age, the gender, education, marriage, marriage status, credit card details, bill payment, everything, and we are actually printing the values, and then we're converting it because we need to perform operations on it. This is how actually the data should be previously before it's to be evaluated. As you can see here, just a second. We're converting it to integer because sometimes the values may be different and it's not as per our expectations. So we are basically normalizing the data so we can perform it. So we're converting it to inputs for the runner forest like previously what we've given the model. So right here we see the prediction equals to lower model and predict. We're passing the values what we see here, and then we're trying to get the predict function, and here we're trying to do the probability, which is what we're going to do, and we're going to return no here we're gonna first convert them into some real values. The prediction is going to be 0 or 1, which is going to be an integer value because it's like 0 or 1, and it's floating point for probability because probability can be 0 0.4, 0 0.5 or 0 0.9. And then we're creating an entry here because we need to return back the data, and we need to be presenting this into the web page, and by session.add we're basically reporting them back to it, and by session.commit we're finalizing the transaction, the transfer of data, which can be called as a transaction because it's a transfer of data and performing of operations. And I can see here we're using the right both pushing and extracting data from the SQL engine here. As you can see, engine.execute, and we're writing a statement select from credit card default limit 5. So we're taking the first 5 and we're returning them with the index.html with prediction as prediction, which we got here, a probability code probability. So we are actually trying to get similar status of similar people. That's what we're actually trying to do. And the final step is actually the main function. If the name equals to main, then start the main loop. So this is actually the back end which we're trying to do. This is the back end. This is how the users interact. What we're trying to do is we're taking the input, we click here, we're creating an engine to the SQLite, and we're using the previously saved model, and then we're converting the user given inputs to the random forest model. We're loading them, we're trying to convert them, and then we're using the prediction function, the predictive probability function. We're passing the values and then getting the values returned, and then we're once again trying to check if the similar records exist within the database. And that's all about it. Thank you.